It started when I was about maybe 15, nearly 16 years old. I made a Twitter account. I was always a bit of a loner, I guess, and wanted to make some friends online. I always got bullied in school for being a loner, particularly a few Asian lads. This stuck for me for a while. I never really necessarily had a bad opinion of different races or religions. It was never a thing for me. My mum always taught me to be a good person, never judge, and respect people and they'll respect you. But, you know, I didn't do anything wrong, but these people decided to disrespect me and bully me. And it stuck for me. It stuck with me for a while. And one day I was on Twitter, I was scrolling by and I saw a video that someone had retweeted or shared on like shared onto my profile. It was a really horrible video. Like it physically made me sick to like look at. But all I could think of when I saw this video was my two sisters and how I hope this would never happen to them. Anyways, the person who shared it had some very extreme views. I mean, at the time of the video, of seeing that video, it made me so angry. I agreed with him. I followed him. His whole account was dedicated to standing up to ISIS members and making bold statements of how all Muslims are the same and that they want to rape our women, traffic them, kill our boys and take over our country. We need to keep them out, scare them away, play them at their own game. It was typical kind of tweets from this guy. It was crazy, but I was young and I confused his hate with passion and patriotism. I wanted to be passionate about something too, and I felt honoured because he followed me back, he messaged me, asking me to support and help him spread the word. He was sort of like the dad I never really had for a little bit. Well, I ended up meeting this guy because he lived in the village outside of my city. And I met his mates. He paid for me to go to football games. He would pay for my beers at the pub, even though I was underage. But I felt like I was part of something good for the first time in basically, well, all my life, really. All his mates held the same hate as what he did, and eventually their hate became my hate. Well, I think it did anyway. Maybe I was just a bit deluded at the time. I mean, not to mention the newspapers and the medias, they want us to hate these people. They want us to hate anyone who isn't white. Like, when you hear things of terrorism, it's always Muslim people, isn't it? That's all you ever hear. I guess in a way I feared them a little bit. They were very violent people. These people that I made friends with. Especially when they'd been drinking on away games. They would smash up things and places. I mean, one day we went into this little corner shop and this guy that I met, he was getting a bit aggy and a bit racist. So the owner wouldn't serve us. That's when it all cracked off and he told me to do something, which I will spend the rest of my life regretting. I ended up being the bully who bullied me back in school. I didn't want to be that person. The whole situation was a big turning point for me. I was never a violent person. My mum said I was groomed and radicalised. I guess it's true. I never knew the meaning of that word until now, when this charity helped me. They helped me understand what happened to me. I was groomed, I was radicalised, but I want to change that. It's hard to admit to yourself that you're a vulnerable person and that you've let someone take advantage of you. I guess it's a pride thing, but I can admit it now. And that's the first step, admitting to yourself what you've done, taking accountability for what you've done and the people that you've hurt. Because it wasn't just that guy in the shop that I hurt, it was people that I terrorised online. And I regret it. I can't believe I let myself become that person. I want to make a difference now. I've learnt what happened to me and I want to help prevent it happening to other people. And I want to help people get away from these crimes like I have. I want to help teach people. I want to become a part of this charity and help people in the future and, you know, just make the world a better place. I'm not an evil person. I was abused. And, you know, that's why I decided to make this video. Creating this project has really changed my energy into something positive rather than negative like before. Before I had nothing to, I had nothing to progress towards, nothing I had dreams of doing, nothing I felt like I was good at. It's helped me understand what's happened to me and also what happens to those people that we're forced to hate in the media. You know, like all these Islamic terrorists, they've gone through the same thing as me as well. And it's time for action and social change and to help people get treated better and not become isolated. Radicalisation is a form of abuse. So I grew up in a Muslim community in the UK and I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to have a good life. My family was quite poor, but they always put food on the table and looked after me and my siblings. I was grateful to the UK and how they let us live here and for me to get this chance at a better life and for my family too. Being a girl, I was raised quite differently to other girls in our culture. A lot of the time, girls in our culture, they were treated to be submissive and the man is always right and you have to provide and you have to give in to a lot of toxic cultures. My family are what my friends at school and our mosque would call coconuts, which basically means brown on the outside and white on the inside. It was really offensive, but I would always shrug it off, and still they would constantly tease me about how I'm not a proper Muslim. I don't practice our religion enough and my whole family is shameful for loving the British people, and it grew to the point where I was ashamed of myself and wanted to prove I was a good Muslim girl. So I began to change myself and to try and fit in with my friends and values more and began to dress more like them and take the same interests as them and read up more on the religion, which was a good thing. Like, I learned a lot more about my culture by doing so, but I wasn't doing it for reasons that I wanted to do it. I was doing it to please other people. I don't know, I guess I've been raised that way, like, to please other people. I've always been that way. I always want to please my mum, my dad, my siblings. I want to make them proud. And I don't know, I guess I've just always been that way. I don't like conflict or anything like that, so a lot of the time I just give in to what people want me to do, just to have an easier life. All my friends' views, interpretations of the Quran were quite extreme. It took me a while to feel like I was fully included in their group, so I didn't really voice my disapproval either of their extreme ideas. I mean, it fully all started when 9/11 happened. I was gobsmacked. I couldn't believe it, and I think it was about 6 months after I actually went back to the mosque because I didn't want to go back. There was a few attacks on the mosque and I was scared. But when I did go, there was a small group of people there before prayer that I overheard, along with a few of my friends talking about 9/11 and how it was deserved. I questioned it in my mind and I went over and questioned them. That was a horrible thing to say. They stared at me and basically started to list off all the things that I've kind of just ignored before, such as people. They would throw things at me, calling me names, and people hiding their nose, holding their nose whenever I was around them because they whispered to their friends I smelled like curry. Men would let white women sit down on the bus, but when I got on the bus, they never stood up for me. Even my teachers treated me differently to my classmates, and it got a lot worse after 9/11. So much worse, to the point I would cry myself to sleep at night. I became romantically involved with someone later in life, and his views were the most extreme views I've ever heard. But he treated me really good at first. He sort of love bombed me in a way. Like, it was nice, it felt good. And as soon as he had me under his hook, he started to treat me a lot differently. He basically manipulated me. He told me all these things of how a woman should be and what she should do for her husband, and I felt like a slave. But I couldn't go against that. I couldn't go against him. He gaslit me whenever I tried to bring him up on his words and actions against me and other people. I felt sorry for him, that these were his thoughts. He felt this hatred towards people. He ended up influencing me a lot, and I felt very pressured to do the things he said, otherwise he would hurt me. He would beat me. I wasn't allowed to be a lawyer anymore. I wasn't allowed to have a job because as a woman, my only job is to look after her husband. I wasn't allowed to see my friends unless he was there. And over a period of time, I was walking on eggshells around him, and I would do everything he said just to avoid the conflict and the drama and the pain and the guilt. I felt like everything was my fault. So I would do anything to please him, because it was better than the alternative. After a period of time, he wanted to move to Turkey. But first he made me go to Hong Kong. He paid for my trip to go to Hong Kong and transfer some money. And he was very paranoid at the time, and he just told me, when we move there, we need as much money as we can get, and he didn't want to pay tax, and he wanted to just avoid all those charges, and he was very paranoid about the government and what they would think. Deep down, I knew the real reason why he wanted me to go to Hong Kong and basically embezzle this money, but I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe that I was a part of this, what he was making me do. I wasn't proud of it, and I'm sick to my stomach that I was tormented and gave in to these extreme and radical views, and did everything my mother and father raised me not to do. But I did what I did, and all I can do now is make a change to make up for my regrets. I never wanted to hurt anyone, but I know the part I played has gone towards hurting millions of people, and that's something that I have to live with. And 15 years later, it is a crime that I have done my time for. To be honest, when I was finally arrested, I was relieved. I was happy because I was finally free. I had a lot of time to think about my actions in prison and what I want to do to make up for my crime. I want to be a person to help de-radicalise other women who feel pressured and are abused into making these decisions. Help them to understand they have a choice and they can get out, and not to be afraid that there's people like this charity here to help them. Now I'm released, I plan to make a difference for advocating for women's rights in the Muslim community. Help change this toxic culture, because it's been passed down through generations and generations, and it's not their fault. It's just all they know. And I want to help them that they can change it. My generation can change this. I'm still struggling now to regain the trust and bond that I had with my parents before this. I kind of feel alone in the world, but I want to make up for it. I want to be better. I need to be better. I want to raise the issues surrounding racism and Islamophobia in a peaceful way, because those views, a lot of the time, even though it's not right, are what makes it so easy for people like me to be brainwashed into radicalisation. I want this to be the first step in my very own de-radicalising project, which this charity has helped inspire me to do. I'm so thankful and grateful to this project. I finally feel positive about something in my life and that it's heading in the right direction and that I can make a change. And I hope people understand that, because the belief, support and trust gives me so much hope to be better as well, and that I can desist fully from my crimes and not get roped back into it.